At the end of your life, what will be your legacy? What will you leave behind for future generations? For the world, join the World Messenger, Izabela Lundberg, each week as she brings you a new distinguished guest from the business, sports, or entertainment world to share their success, their struggles, and their lessons. They will share their insights into current hot topics that affect everyone. Izabela facilitates an intimate, vulnerable environment to find the true value of humanity and real leadership. Are you ready for your legacy? The legacy that matters? Hello, my beautiful friends. It's Izabela Lundberg here, the World Messenger, and I'm inviting you for another epic episode of Legacy Leader Show. Today's guest is extraordinary. She's joining us from LA. She's originally from Florence, but she has been on the global stages around the world. She's full of class, grace, and grit, and more than anything, phenomenal leader, an example of female leader. She has tremendous legacy that she was able to establish, but also build upon further. She's full of light and passion, and I cannot wait to introduce you to award-winning producer, president and chairman of Quinn Studios Entertainment, Valentina Castellani. Welcome, Valentina. How are you?
Very, very good, Izabela. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you and your audience today.
Thank you so much. I know you are busy. You've been just in Emirates. I mean, you're working on multiple different projects, and having this chance to chat with you while you are in LA and Malibu and enjoying gorgeous weather and working.
Yes.
It's just absolute pleasure to have you with us. So, Valentina, you just came from Emirates. If you don't mind sharing for anybody that is eager to go, wanted to know, you've been doing something tremendous there. And you're working on very interesting projects. But before we jump into that, did you mind sharing a little bit about your background? I mean, you come from one of my favorite cities in Italy. As a fellow European and neighbor Croatian, Florence has so many dear moments in my heart. So please, do you mind sharing a little bit about where you grew up and what history you have in your own family that you started with?
Yes. I come from Florence, Tuscany, from a very ancient family that grew up all in Florence, Tuscany. And my grandfather and great-grandfather owned the biggest opera theater in Tuscany, which is Teatro Verdi, just about like La Scala in Milano, and many other theaters and cinemas. He was Riccardo Castellani was his name of my grandfather, and he was also the president of Anicagis, the international distributions for film, and he was also a producer. So of course, my coming in the world was already embedded into the entertainment industry. I grew up watching opera and theater and classical concerts and ballet, so much more, and films, because that's where my mother would drop us kids while she had to do her errands in one of the cinemas of my family to watch a film while she was doing something, you know. So we grew up with so much cultures of films and entertainment, and the house of my grandparents in Florence was always full of these actors, directors, you know, that for us were family friends. So I obviously kind of breathed in all of this, and it came back later on in my life. I graduated. I finished my studies in France, and I graduated with a master's degree in design and fine arts. And for a while, I've been designing actually at the highest levels. And it's been later on with being with Francesco Quinn and the story that brought us together, that I became a producer and put at work all the experience that I gathered throughout my childhood and the years that I worked around Francesco and in this city, Los Angeles, which is all about entertainment, of course.
Wow, what amazing childhood and youth and early
years of your life. So it's so enlightening to see someone who is being introduced to theater and cinema so early on. What do you remember as a little girl? What was the most fascinating thing about it? What movie did you like? What made the most impression for you to continue to carry on and shape who you are today?
Well, I mean, I remember my grandfather and his desk, and I remember his incredible class and the passion he had in his work. That it's been always something that framed my career. You know, remembering how my grandfather was operating into this business, definitely. And I remember watching It's a Beautiful Life at the movie theater, you know, and I thought, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I would love to go to Hollywood, you know, and for a kid in Florence, it looks like a very far away place, you know, but at the same time, you see these films all the time in my family. I mean, it was part of this story of my family, was in the cinemas. They were distributed by my family. So it was a close and far relationship that I had with these films, you know.
That is amazing. And now, not only you had that legacy, then you have your own standalone amazing legacy that you're able to build. But where you mentioned you also, based on a relationship with Francesco and work that you'd started together, you inherited another very big legacy, and you were a torch holder with obviously being chairman of the enterprise. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that story with our audience?
Yes, as you and my audience know, Francesco Quinn died 10 years ago of a sudden heart attack while playing with our kids. And that was obviously a very tragic moment of my life that really marked a shift, a chapter in my life, and a very big change, you know, because after that, definitely there was to recover, to find strength, to find courage, to find hope and love for life again. And so for me, the way is been always through creativity. When I encounter a challenge in life, my salvation, my healing moment has been always through creativity. So when this thing just happened, just a few months later, one of my best friends told me, what do you want to do now? And I thought, I would like to do a TV series on cycling, because cycling was one of the favorite sports of Francesco, you know, who was a sportman for sure. Any sports from horseback riding to polo to soccer to cycling to motocross, Formula One, he would do it, and he would do it as a champion, you know, until the last second. So he did that also with cycling, and he was training with Mark Cavendish, the world champion, you know, kids that were at the time in their 20s, and Francesco was 47 already. So he paid a very harsh price for that, and he died of a heart attack suddenly. So for me to do a TV series on cycling would give back the real spirit and love for life that Francesco had, rather than concentrating on the tragedy. And so I embarked into this big adventure of creating from scratch a TV series, from the format, creating this whole reality TV series, sport TV series. And I went to Italy, and bold as I was in those moments where you are numb, because nothing else can touch you after such a big tragedy, you know. I went to Giro d'Italia and to Rai, which is the national TV, and that holds the right for this big race, which is the Giro d'Italia, which is like the Tour de France, but actually more difficult, more challenging. And I asked for the rights, and I think they saw me so so genuine. And they understood what it meant for me. And of course, they did know Francesco, that I actually got the rights to shoot this race, and we got the funding. And here we were in Italy shooting this race, from the before the race, where the athletes get selected through other races. And then following these athletes, we selected about 5 of them and followed them through the race stage by stage, which was extremely challenging. It's probably the most challenging production work I ever done. We had about 25 cameras on set. We were traveling at night to go to the next stage, because each day the cyclists travel to another city. So we had already to be set up at the start, in the middle, and arrival, in order to actually capture the spirit of this race. And then we would film their families, their moment in the backstage, what it really meant to be an athlete at that level. And it was very, very challenging, again, logistically and technically. We had 5 trucks of equipment and stuff. So it was a full immersion learning course in production. And it really paid off, and the series was very, very good, and such a learning curve in my life. And so I didn't quite choose to be a producer necessarily, but I became one. And I think that most of beautiful things in life come to us actually before we can even choose them,
Wow, I love what you just said. A great share of passion, love, and commitment to honor someone you so deeply love, and fortunately tragically lost too soon. But it's also beautiful, as you said, unexpected paths open, and they show you the way, and sometimes you don't even know what that next chapter is.
Yes.
And look at you now, you're award-winning producer, you're doing some amazing things which we cannot wait to jump into next.
Yes.
But I just want to say thank you for sharing that, and I'm sure that process helped you with healing. And if you don't mind, so many people in recent years lost so many loved ones, and any advice specifically with women and children that are left behind, what would you say for them to cope and overcome and find the peace and heal?
Well, I always say, to me, the power of creativity is much greater than the power of pain. And it's something that one must really reflect upon. Because the power of creativity is the power of manifestation, is the power of joy and love within us. And the truth is that is much, much bigger. Creativity in all its form is always available to us. And once one is involved in something creative, our mind, our soul, our body, our heart is completely involved in it. And therefore it's very healing, because there is no time, no energy to dwell into pain and feel down and feel like completely invested into a destructive energy. So I always want to remind this, and because I can say that, sometimes we don't want to believe these words if our mom say, a friend, because we're like, well, what do you know? Well, I do know. I can't say that, I really do know. And I insist in saying it, the power of creativity is much bigger than the power of pain. So I would suggest to anybody to really get involved with your creativity, whether it's, go ride the horse or paint, start painting, start writing, do something, learn a new language, learn a new topic, enroll yourself into a course, into university. Find a creative way to involve yourself. Because creativity is in creation, is a very moving energy, rather than a stale energy that is pain, so that, and it's a great example to our kids. I am so glad that whether I chose it or not, I involved myself into this TV series because I brought my daughter, with me into this trip with this shooting this cycling race. And, at the end of the race, I could see that even her was healed, was finding what was Francesco was about, but also finding a new power in herself to be part of a bigger project, a bigger experience, So that kind of feeling is much bigger than thinking about the person that just died, because the person lives through this creative energy. So it's so much powerful, more beautiful, more creative, and more becoming. It gives us access to so much more. So that, I think, is the best suggestion that I can give. And life continues. I mean, right now, I would have never expected that this very difficult moment of my life would bring me to such beautiful achievements. It was the last of my thoughts. I was surviving in the moment. But I think that when our spirit is reacting and taking the courage to put itself in motion again, the universe always helps us. So people come to our life, friends come to our life, possibilities, opportunities come, and suddenly you are lifted in something that is bigger, is more creative, and you have to trust it. Trust. It's a big word, but it's a winning word in here. Yes.
Wow, that is so powerful. So much wisdom and so much opportunity for everyone watching and listening to tap into that power, that inner power, and turn their creativity from that pain. I just love how you explained that, and I can agree more, because so many people get stuck in that, and then they get stale in stagnant energy and prolong the healing. And it's just so beautiful to see the strength, the grit, the grace, the wisdom that comes out of that beautiful story. So do you mind sharing with us a little bit, Valentina, about what are you currently doing as a producer that stem from that obviously tragedy and turned into something amazing? You've been dealing with a lot of different projects. So do you mind sharing a little bit some of the past projects you feel so much also passionate about? And also one project in particular that is still in production, but we cannot wait to see, that has so much beautiful story behind, which is Polo. Yes. Please, do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, 10 years have been passing since I started to be a producer and open Quinn Studios. And in these 10 years, many projects have been produced, made, done, etc. And including a beautiful documentary about peace in the Middle East that got the US Congress Award and the Human Rights Award and many others, and allowed myself to walk a journey into politics, diplomacy, spirituality, and so much more, and got me to film with Pope Francis, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the President of Israel, the President of Palestine, and so many diplomatic figures, and speak at United Nations, UNESCO, at US Congress. So it was an amazing journey, definitely. And then other films, that we co-produced, among those, the Butterfly's Dream, that was candidated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe, and I think it won overall 15 international awards, and is on Netflix, and so many more. Right now, I am in pre-production with a beautiful, inspirational, true story. And the film is called Polo, and is produced by Quinn Studios Entertainment, Neredes de Bourbon Group, and the Royal Private Office in the Emirates, Sheikh Ahmed bin Faisal Al Qasimi's private office. And that opens a new door of opportunities and creativity that I opened again in a time of challenge where the whole world was stopped. And in lockdown, I went the other way, as I always do, and felt I needed to get more creative. And I accepted about a year ago an invitation to a congress in Dubai, where I was supposed to speak. And I requested to create a women panel, a women empowerment speaking panel, where I was speaking with 3 of the sheikhs, the wife of the sheikhs. And I wanted to highlight the beauty, the difference, the cultural difference, the background, and highlight a piece of world that we really don't know. We have an idea about these women that are segregated, ignorant, or completely cut out of the world, and it's so not true. These women are beyond highly educated internationally. They speak 4 or 5 languages. They are extremely socially and politically involved. They are extremely active and walking the walk of a leader. And it was a great pleasure to share with them, to open them to the world. The Congress was international, so it gave the speaking panel gave access to the world to really see this woman in a different kind of optic vision, and it was a very bold speaking panel, where we really spoke about everything from our private lives to work, visions, initiatives, And after that, I was called by the Royal Private Office, and I had no idea what to expect. And I went to the office, and they asked me, "What do you want to do next?" Again, just like the time of the cycling project, what do you want to do? These are moments that can make you or break you. So I encourage everybody to be courageous in those moments, because they arrive for everybody. But in that moment, you have to catch it, understand the importance that these are moments that are opening new gates, and you can't be afraid. So they asked me, "What do you want to do next? What do you have in mind?" And I said, "Look, I found a small article in an old scrap of paper about this story of this group of kids from the suburbia of an American city that finds redemption and inspiration through the sport of polo." And I love this story because we're talking about the underdog. We're talking about unprivileged kids of all ethnicities. Just like any suburbia, they are filled with immigrants from all parts of the world or countries with different traditional languages, and they're usually very hostile with one another because of barriers of incomprehension, language, traditions, way of being that are so different that create hostility and a barrier with one another. And instead, these kids gets guided through play together, a sport that they have no idea what it is. Polo is considered by history the sport of kings, because it's very elitary, it's very luxurious. And in my story, it's actually the attitude and the courage of life of these kids that make them kings. And I loved this paradigm of the story. And so I said, polo is basically the national sport in the Emirates because of the horses. They have some of the most beautiful horses, and they have the space. So I introduced this story, and I said I would like to do the film with you. And so we did start a partnership. I signed a partnership with the royal family in the Emirates to produce films together and documentaries and TV series, creating a bridge with Hollywood and the Emirates, which is a country that by now is quite ready to start their own film industry, and with the format and a quality level of Hollywood. And the first film will be Polo, which is a much bigger international co-production. And since then, we had the pleasure to meet many of the government organizations, and everybody jumped on board with this amazing story. So I feel extremely happy because it's a beautiful, inspirational story. Shoots in America and it shoots in the UAE, but is creating really a bridge between these two countries to envision producing together and uniting the Hollywood quality of movie making to the technical, progressive professionalism of the Emirates.
Valentina, that is very, very powerful what you just shared in terms of collaboration and bringing worlds together. And I love how you using your female leadership to shed the light in areas that we have a lot of misperceptions and stigmas, as you pointed out. Yes. And what is the life in Emirates about, and what the royal family and everybody stand for. And then at the same time, how we expand that and bridge the gaps, as you pointed out, with multi-ethnical cultural differences, and find a way to see how can we thrive and exist together and in such a much deeper, meaningful way. But one thing I also love about your work, both of us are huge humanitarians, and obviously things you were mentioning earlier also with award-winning productions that you had, and playing in diplomacy and playing with others to really shed the light. You're also stepping up and doing something extraordinary right now. You are also supporting Ukraine, and you have a specific charity that you're supporting, which you will tell us in a second. But I just want to ask you, how did you start feeling this desire and need to help philanthropically and obviously make some great impact?
I think it comes to all of us, we just need to open the eyes, and see where we are at in the world. And I think causes, journeys come to us, and we all find our niche into it. So I started to collaborate with Joblio. I became global spokesperson of this company. It's not a charity, but it's so much more. I would say it's a company. It's based and founded in New York and Miami, and then expanded his offices in Moldova and Poland, but is now active in 50 countries, and is a company that is finally resolving the problem of immigration and labor work, which is one of the biggest problems we have globally, and is the source of all human trafficking, child abuse, drug trafficking. As we know, I saw it with my eyes in Italy with the immigrants coming from Africa, and then paying big amount of money for them, between the 10 to the 20,000, to immigrants in a boat. Half of them died on the trip, as we know, unfortunately and tragically, and then they land only to land either in Italy or Greece, and then being promised the work, safety, everything ethical, and none of it is available. It is a fortune if they can stay in some camp, for refugees, but otherwise they are scattered with no identities, and most of them do end up in the hands of international crime and human trafficking, etc. So Joblio created a system through a platform, a digital platform, where everybody can just click and apply for free through a phone. And let's remember that even in the third world country, even kids have access to a phone.
Yes.
And they can click to each country and see the work available. They will be tested for that work, and the work is safe through contracts with countries, governments, and local companies. The immigration is safe, and observe through Interpol. The subjects that are immigrate, again, they are screened and scanned through Interpol, so is guaranteeing the maximum safety from the point of view of the country who hosts these people, through the instead individuals that do immigrate and find a new, more ethical standard of immigration and a system that welcomes them with humanity. So I feel very happy to be a voice for this company, and right now they're much involved into the Ukrainian crisis, creating shelters for women and kids especially that are stranded in Ukraine, and moving them to Poland and to Moldova and sheltering them, and in the meantime creating visas for them to immigrate safely and getting them safe jobs that they can do, from nursing to caring to anything that they are capable of doing, and finding also homes for them. So it's quite a great operation and organization, and I feel very happy to be part of it. I am known to face a lot of social impact issues in my films, and this is a way for me to give back in the real world, and it's very inspiring. Actually, we're thinking also to shoot a documentary with Joblio about the immigration and the journey of an immigrant through finding safety elsewhere. So I like that part of my journey as well. I like to navigate in different worlds. I think that we compensate and grow more when we navigate on a bigger ocean. So I like to do feature films, but I also like to do documentary and facing real issues, because this expand our point of view, our lens through the world, our ideas, inspiration, etc.
That is so powerful. And first of all, I just want to kudos you for you and your explain so much still passion and care for humanity globally, which is so rare, and it's so beautiful because it's so genuine and real. And we need more of those voices, because we're seeing plethora of complexity more than ever. As a result, the more we unite, more we share what is available and how we can play together and how we can make a positive impact, I think is such a significant. And I love, again, how you use your voice and platform, as well as obviously enterprise that you are in charge of as a president chairman, and just not looking for any stories, but very, very profound stories.
Yes.
And with that in mind, you might share a little bit about vision of Quinn Studio Entertainment and its legacy. I know that all of this came in recent years, and it's evolving, right? And then as a person in charge that shares and holds that vision, do you mind sharing a little bit about amazing work you're doing there?
It came, the idea of creating Quinn Studios obviously came from the death of Francesco Quinn, and to keep his legacy, to keep his memory alive. He died so young, and he was an award-winning actor, and he was starting to direct and produce as well. And I felt that we needed to keep his memory alive. This is something that he would have loved to do and didn't have the time to do. So I felt it was great for me to open up this chapter, and it came obviously a few months after he died. I felt that I wanted to do it, and it came from a moment of desperation and feeling to trust instead of just giving up, to really trust and believe that something could be done. I always tell the story that in the months after he died, his reading glasses were still sitting at the bedside table. And every night I would go to sleep and hold these glasses like a handle that would prevent me from falling, because it really felt like falling my life at the time. And night after night, I would take these glasses and hold them tight And then one night I took the glasses and I opened my hand and I put them down. I decided to fall and not be afraid anymore. And it's from that simple symbolic gesture that all abundance came into my life. A month later, I created Quinn Studios Entertainment, and in a year we had our first film candidate for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe. So you see, wow. I say always, not everybody can relate to an award, an Oscar, but we can all relate to such a simple gesture that can shift our point of view, can bend our destiny. And we all have these moments in life, you know, so those moments are giving voice to a much bigger inner voice that we have. And it's so important to trust this moment, to believe in them and create from them. And so this is what I did. And Quinn Studios Entertainment was created to continue my legacy, first of all, my family legacy, and the one of Francesco in the arts, the pursuit of world peace, film and entertainment, and so much more. And since then, we've done so many projects, all very specifically chosen to continue this path. I'm not known for commercial films, nor for thriller or horror films at all, but I am known for inspirational stories, feature films, and documentary, and I love to continue that path.
Wow, that is such an amazing legacy and vision, and what you put and in those moments, as you said, when you felt like you're gonna fall down, you could look at how you raise up and what you build, and how amazing legacy you already live and leading with. So do you mind sharing what is coming? What is in bucket list? What is next, Valentina? But all of them we already did.
Yes, we are also in the process of filming a beautiful documentary about the Native Americans and the alternative energies to oil. The Native Americans are a group of people that I particularly feel very endeared, and I feel them very close to my heart. And this documentary came when we were finishing the documentary about peace in the Middle East, which is One Rock, Three Religions, is on Amazon. And we did interview Ambassador Woolsey, and we were talking about oil a lot. And while we were talking and interviewing this amazing businessman and diplomatic figure, we felt like this is a film on its own. But I didn't want to do a political documentary. I like for the documentary, just like One Rock, Three Religions, to feel an emotion. I have to feel a point of connection through emotions, so that they are more human. They feel more approachable and comprehensible for people that watch them that are not necessarily politically involved. And this was the time 2 years ago that the saga of Standing Rock and the Native Americans with the pipeline that were passing through their reservation and their sacred water was on the news. And again, in there, I put together the crew together with the director of One Rock, Three Religions, Isaac Hertz. And we went guerrilla shooting, as we say technically, where we don't have necessarily permits or great organization, but just the minimal equipment and the 4 to 5 people to shoot. And so we did, and we took a flight to Standing Rock, which is near 2 hours from Fargo, and it was minus 30 degrees.
Wow.
And in minus 30 degrees, not even a cell phone or a camera works after 3 minutes. They froze. So every 3 minutes, we were obliged to go back to the car and heat up these machineries so that we could go back and reshoot. And we would wrap them with scarves and things and try to keep them warm so they could film and be operative. and we filmed into Standing Rock and this amazing camp of Native Americans, a teepee camp that you would think doesn't exist anymore. I mean, this is the reality that I actually rediscovered. I've been living in the States for 25 years, so I'm a little bit more aware about the Native Americans than others. But believe me, in Europe, and you are European as well as many parts of the world and America, many people don't think that even the Native American exist anymore in the form and traditions that they were before. And that's such a crime, because actually they are quite alive and quite a symbol and the roots and the foundation of American societies in many ways, much more than we think. America didn't start with the Constitution. It started much more before and sprouts from the mixing of the Constitution with the Native Americans, not just from our import from Europe. I think it's very important to remember that. So I interviewed and filmed throughout this camp with amazing people, women and men, and witness all their rituals, their sacred rituals. But the most important thing was the chief. I gained the trust of their main chief, sort of a pope of all the tribes, all the star nations, as they call it. And that's Chief Arvol Looking Horse. When I arrived to the camp in Standing Rock, I wanted to find him, and the camp was dismantling because of a storm coming up, plus the minus 30 degrees. So all the elders were dying during the night because of the cold. No matter the fire, they usually have a fire in the middle of the teepee, but in the night the temperature were going so down and the elders were dying. And so the Chief Arvol was dislocated and brought to safe areas, and I was trying to find him, but keep in mind there were like 2,000 teepee and no internet. So we couldn't communicate. Where is this guy right now? How do we find him? And I made friendship with a sort of a kid that was managing the camp, was bringing food and water to the different teepees. And I'm like, do you know where is Chief Arvol? Well, I know he's here, but they're bringing me away. I don't know which camp. I'm like, please help me. And I stayed there. In the meantime, we were shooting other film footage, etc. At the third day, the kid come back to me and is like, I found the cell phone number of the wife of the chief, but good luck to you because it's not working, obviously. So, and that was it. And so I started to leave all the messages to this phone that was not working, obviously. And after 4 days, we were just about ready to pack and go back to Los Angeles. We're back at the hotel 2 hours away from the camp, and the phone rings, and he's the wife of the chief. And she's like, I got all your messages, Valentina. This is such so kind and everything. We would love to do it, but unfortunately, we are already 6 hours away from the camp. We were sent away because of the temperatures and the storm, so we cannot do it anymore. The chief, we are on our way to Canada to perform a spiritual ritual that the chief needs to do. So I feel bummed out, I'm like, no, I mean, I know that the universe always finds a way, Yes. And I said, well, let's stay one extra day. Let's just stay an extra day and film. And sure enough, at the end of the extra day, I go back to the hotel with my little crew. Everybody had frostbites because it was very difficult to shoot. And the phone rings, and he's the wife of the chief again, and tells me, Valentina, for the first time in our life, we lost the plane to Canada. And the chief interpreted this as a sign that he has to meet you. So he's like, we are going to wait in here. We're 6 hours away. you guys have to drive, and please mind that all the streets and roads are frozen. So drive safely. We will be waiting for you out here. So this is night. I'm like, okay, in 2 hours, guys, everybody in the car, I will drive. Because the guys were exhausted. We're like, no, Valentina, we're not going to do it. We're not going to drive in the night. Please, I'm like, okay, I will drive. You have to take responsibility. When you are leading, you have to be led by your cause and be the leader. So the kids, as I call them, were sleeping in the car, so they could gain a little bit more energy and strength. And I drove the 6 hours and went to meet the chief, and then we filmed with this amazing figure that is iconic to say the least, and from them it was born an amazing friendship and trust between each other. Keep in mind that the Native Americans are wounded people, and therefore they are very untrusting the white man, and we are all the white man for them. And so it takes a great deal of trust for them to trust one of us and open up about their life, their traditions, etc. And so we started this beautiful journey. We had to interrupt through COVID because the Native American reservation were closed to the white men for COVID. And they were severely impacted, some of them.
Yes.
They certainly need our attention. Many of them do not have hospitals or decent conditions of living. Many of these reservations have no electricity, no current water in the house. They still wash and pray and do everything to the river, so this is all magnificently beautiful in a poetical way, but is also terrifically sad to know that in the middle of such a progressive, amazing country that United States is, there are these realities that desperately need our attention.
What a journey. And as you said, when it's something meant to be, when you show up, when you open, everything will be led to you or showed the way. And I'm so glad you're highlighting that, because Native American, environment that are in and how they're living, and education and how they're actually segregated in the land, that cannot necessarily much be nourished or something to really grow in terms of culture, how they used to live.
Yes.
Before we Europeans came and conquered so much of that, unfortunately, part of the history, and not as bright legacy, right? But in the same time, I love how you are building relationship and trust and shedding light where it is needed the most.
Yes.
And where we see the most biggest conflicts in the world, from Middle East to Native America and everything. And right now we're having also major turmoil that is going on in Europe, and seeing all of these different dynamics that are happening. Yes. With that in mind, Valentina, what would you like your legacy to be? What would you like to be known for? I mean, you already have living and leading that legacy. You're already known for so many things, but knowing, just listening to you and this undying passion, drive, and desire, I know it's something bigger still yet to unfold. And do you mind sharing, what is that?
Well, I really do live the life that I want to live. Definitely, I'm the captain of my boat in many sense, and I say this with great humility, because I'm learning every day. There is so much that I haven't even started or done, but I would like to continue this way, and if nothing else, to give a sense of great positivity in a moment of extreme disruption and fragility. I say there is so much we can still do, and I've done it. I'm doing it, in a moment where nobody was traveling. I travel the world. Of course, I'm very blessed to have 2 passports, so it's a little bit easier, but at the same time, it was available for many, and rather than sinking in fear, with all, of course, respecting all the rules and codes and everything, but there is so much more that we can do rather than sitting on the TV and listening to politics, news, and stuff. There is so much more that we can do and become once we get out of the shell of fear that is wrapping us all over right now. I do not believe in fear. I don't give in to fear. I give in to courage, to enthusiasm. I love this word. It's an ancient Greek word, the entheos, that means to be inhabited by the gods. And I love that, to think that to have the gods with us, to have that spirit that inhabit us, to create with joy, because it is again from within. Enthusiasm, people think that comes from outside. Well, you are lucky, you live in Mali. No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. Enthusiasm, the word, it says to be inhabited. So it comes from within.
Yes.
And if you have it within, it will reflect in part of our life. It will give us the courage, the enthusiasm, the drive to see more, to open up new journeys for us. So if there is nothing else that I would like to do, is to keep the enthusiasm in my life, to find joy in things rather than sinking in fear and ideas of things that 1% of them really happened, of all the things that the TV is feeding us every day. So and if nothing else, then if you do want to be active about some problems, then do something. Go and do something. I became a global spokesperson for Joblio so that I was going to be active in a problematic that I felt it was very important in life. So rather than, again, people right now stays so connected with social media, TV, news, and all of that, without even mentioning the sagas that are going on. But rather than do that, do something either for that cause or for creativity, for yourself, for your family, for your kids, for what you love. Do for what you love. Don't do for what you hate, So I think it's something very, very important nowadays to remember. Yes.
What a powerful advice, and what a powerful forces that are continue to not only delight us and educate us and empower us, but also impact us and entertain. So with that in mind, I just want to say it was absolute pleasure to have you this time on the Legacy Leader Show, and we'll definitely have you back again as things progress. But for everyone that is eager to tap in, to learn what you already produced and where they can find some of your great work, beside, obviously, you said on Amazon, what other platform would you like them to go so they can
well, if they surf our web at www.quinnstudiosentertainment.com, you will see the different films and where you can find them. But there is Netflix, Amazon, Hulu has some of our work, and more to come.
Fantastic. We cannot wait to see all these releases, specifically the ones you shared, these amazing, impactful stories, and also the ones that are yet to come, that you are still seeing the vision, and we cannot see when they come to fruition.
Thank you, my dear Izabela, and I look forward to be with you again. And let's just onward with courage, with enthusiasm, with creativity, and so on.
Thank you for listening to Legacy Leader Show. If you enjoyed the content and had a positive experience, then please leave us a positive rating. In addition, leave us a positive review whenever you are listening on whatever platform there might be. Make sure your friends and family also know about the benefit and value that we provide and what we have to offer. Cheers.